Tonight, you will die a little. Not forever, just for a moment. Somewhere between the last thought you remember having and the first dream you don't. Your brain will do something so strange that scientists spent over a century trying to catch it in the act. You won't feel it happen, you never do, but it happens every single night, and it happens to you. Here's the moment nobody talks about. You're lying in bed, your thoughts start to drift. 1 second you're thinking about your day and the next second you're watching a stranger's face melt into your childhood kitchen. You didn't choose that image, nobody wrote it for you. Your brain built it out of nothing, in less than a second, and then handed it to you like it was always there. This is called the hypnagogic state. It's the narrow bridge between being awake and being asleep, and it is far stranger than most people realize. The French sleep researcher Isabelle Arnolf has spent years studying this exact window. She wired people up, watched their brain waves shift in real time, and asked them to report exactly what they experienced the moment before sleep took over. What she found was unsettling. People weren't just getting sleepy, they were hallucinating, vividly, consistently, and almost nobody remembered it afterward, unless they were woken up at precisely the right second. Think about that for a moment. Every night, your mind produces content strange enough to qualify as a hallucination in any other context. If you saw those images while fully awake, you'd call a doctor. But because it happens during the slide into sleep, it gets erased before you can even notice it was frightening. Why does your brain do this? To understand that, you have to understand what falling asleep actually is. It's not a light switch. It's not on, then off. It's a controlled shutdown, region by region. And it doesn't happen all at once. The neuroscientist, Giulio Tononi, along with his colleague, Marcello Massimini, built a device that could measure something remarkable. How connected your brain's different regions are to each other, moment by moment. They called the result the perturbational complexity index. In simple terms, it's a number that tells you how much your brain regions are talking to each other and integrating information into a single unified experience. When you're wide awake, that number is high. Your visual cortex, your memory centers, your sense of self, all of it is wired together into one continuous experience called you. When you fall asleep, that number collapses, fast. The regions don't shut off individually. They stop talking to each other. Your visual system might still be firing. Your memory centers might still be active. But the connections between them break down, like a phone call dropping mid-sentence. What's left isn't unconsciousness, it's fragmentation. Pieces of experience with no coordinator left to stitch them into a coherent self. That fragmentation is what you experience as hypnagogic imagery, random, vivid, disconnected from logic, because the part of your brain that normally enforces logic has already clocked out for the night. Here's the part that should unsettle you a little more. For decades, the dominant theory of dreaming came from a Harvard psychiatrist named Alan Hobson. He proposed something called the activation synthesis hypothesis. The idea was simple but radical. During sleep, your brainstem fires off essentially random electrical signals. Your cortex, the part of your brain responsible for meaning and narrative, receives this chaotic noise and does something remarkable. It tries to make sense of it anyway. Your brain hates randomness. So even when the input is meaningless static, your cortex builds a story out of it. A dream isn't a message. It isn't a window into your subconscious desires. According to Hobson's model, a dream is your brain's desperate, brilliant attempt to find a pattern in noise, using whatever memories and associations happen to be lying around. Does that sound familiar? It should. Because your waking mind does exactly the same thing, all day long, and you rarely notice. You see a cloud and your brain insists it looks like a face. You hear static on an old recording and swear you can make out a whisper. You glance at a stranger across a room for half a second and construct an entire impression of who they are, what they do, whether you'd trust them. None of that is pure observation. It's pattern building, layered on top of incomplete information, happening so fast you mistake it for perception itself. The version of you falling asleep tonight and the version of you reading this sentence right now are running the same software. One just has less oversight. So what actually happens, step by step, in the moment you fall asleep? First, your brainwaves slow. The fast, busy activity of wakefulness, called beta and gamma waves, gives way to slower alpha waves, the kind associated with relaxed, unfocused attention. This is why staring at a wall works better than trying to fall asleep. Effort keeps the fast waves running. Then comes the hypnagogic window. Alpha waves give way to theta waves. This is where Arnulf's hallucinations live. Your sense of your own body may distort. Some people feel like they're falling. Others feel a limb floating away from them. This is also the window where hypnic jerks happen. That sudden full-body twitch that yanks you back to wakefulness. One theory suggests it's your brainstem, misreading the muscle relaxation of sleep onset as the sensation of falling and firing off a reflexive catch. Then your thalamus, the brain's central relay station for sensory information, begins to close the gate. Almost no outside information gets through anymore. This is why a loud noise can wake you in the first few minutes of sleep, but might not register at all 20 minutes later. The gate isn't fully shut yet. And then, somewhere in there, without any clear before and after, you're gone. Not unconscious in the sense of nothing happening. Unconscious in the sense that there's no longer a you who is aware of it happening. The narrator has left the building, even though the lights are still on inside. This is the part that used to terrify philosophers, more than it terrifies modern scientists. If consciousness can simply switch off, region by region, connection by connection, until there's no unified experience left at all, then what does that say about what you actually are? You're not a fixed thing sitting behind your eyes. You're a process, a temporary coordination between billions of neurons that happens to hold together well enough for about 16 hours a day to feel like a continuous self. And every single night, that coordination dissolves completely and then reassembles itself again from scratch by morning. You've done this thousands of times already. You'll do it again tonight, and you will never once catch yourself in the act, because the very system that would need to observe it is the same system that's shutting down. Here's the part worth sitting with. You spend your whole life assuming the you reading this sentence is solid, continuous. The same person who woke up this morning as the same person who will fall asleep tonight. But every night, that person dissolves. Genuinely dissolves, not metaphorically. The connections that make you a unified experience break apart, piece by piece, until nothing is left holding the story together. And then, somehow without instructions, without a manual, your brain rebuilds you by morning. Same memories, same personality, same sense that you never left. Tonight, when you feel your thoughts start to drift, when a stranger's face melts into a room from your childhood, pay attention. Not because you can stop it, you can't, but because that moment, right there, is the closest you will ever get to watching yourself disappear and come back again. You won't die tonight, but something will, and by morning, without you ever noticing the difference, it will have already built itself back.